A terrible tragedy in the match between Bavaria and Benfica. Barcelona continues to demolish opponents under Hansi Flick. Super crazy episode with a penalty in the Aston Villa match. A shameful defeat for Paris Saint-Germain, and a legendary comeback of Zidane at Santiago Bernabeu. We're discussing this and more today. Friends, this is Dose of Football and the top 10 hottest news to this hour. To be seen tomorrow, we need to collect 5,000 likes today. Judging by the latest video, this is not a problem for you. So all I have left is to wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. Manchester City suffered a crushing defeat to Sporting. The loss was the Citizens' third consecutive defeat. A rarity for Pep Guardiola's teams. After the match, the coach commented on the situation like this. It's a difficult time, but I won't give up. I will fight. As a coach, I like this challenge. This is football. Sometimes you can lose. What we went through in the past, perhaps, was an exception. I don't think everything will end badly for Pep. To some extent, Guardiola is an exception, even among the top coaches. He can work steadily year after year without losing motivation and burnout, maintaining all his rationality for solving any possible problems. Pep faced various challenges at Manchester City. This is far from the first microcrisis. And coach, likely as always, will go through it with his head held high, finding an original way out. In terms of stability, perhaps only Sir Alex Ferguson can rival Guardiola himself. However, according to rumors, key functionaries of City believe that it's time to say goodbye to Pep. It's not mainly because the team is playing poorly now. No, they just consider the current moment to be indicative. If Guardiola doesn't leave after this season, then in a year, City will have to go through a restructuring and a global update in any case, including because most of the current squad players are already over 30, and the management believes that there is no point in delaying the inevitable. And Guardiola cannot lead this very restructuring. Firstly, it is not clear what exactly the club's course will be after the arrival of a new coach. The direction will be maintained, but the details are crucial. Secondly, Pep is still likely to leave soon, and his short-term extension will probably delay the process and complicate everything. And then the club will have to go through this with a lot of bloodshed. And the bosses of Manchester City already think that the team needs a fresh start. Neymar got injured again before he could regain his fitness. In the last match of the Asian Champions League, the Brazilian suffered an injury to the back of his thigh. Reports say Neymar will be sidelined for around 2 weeks. His knee is completely immobilized, but he will still have muscle problems. This is due to a long absence from game practice. This is somewhat normal. The Brazilian hasn't played for over a year. The muscles have managed to adapt to the colossal loads they are subjected to during matches and training. That's why clubs often very slowly reintroduce players after serious injuries, like cruciate ligament ones. Look at how carefully Barcelona is handling Gavi. Only Neymar is older and more brittle himself, which is partly related to his playing style. Defenders often brutally took down the attacker simply out of helplessness. Neymar's approach to training doesn't seem to be the most professional either. No, the Brazilian is certainly not the main troublemaker in football, but he is closer to this extreme, not Cristiano Ronaldo. Nighttime binges with alcohol are probably not the strictest diet. Al Hilal considers every detail about the player, who has just over half a season remaining on his contract with the club, revealing much about him. Neymar is not planning to extend the contract. He earns 160 million euros per season. The team's doing great without him, and he simply doesn't have enough time for full adaptation and becoming a leader. In connection with this, as Wall writes, they are planning to terminate the contract with the footballer in the winter transfer window. Neymar is not needed by Al Hilal, so why keep him in the club? The leadership of the Saudi Grand hopes that the Brazilian will agree to terminate the contract by mutual consent. Well, that's the question. What does Ney want more? Change the script or get all 160 million for this lottery. No other club will offer him that kind of money. Besides, as Paulo Barbosa's agent told, Neymar didn't have a good relationship with the coach Al Hilal, Jorge Jesus. He couldn't adapt, resulting in conflict. It wasn't publicized, but he had a conflict with the coach. The coach was not happy that Neymar was not motivated. In short, we are waiting for the Brazilian in Inter Miami or Santos. These are the two most likely options. However, Ney may return to Barcelona this winter. John Laporta actually wanted to bring a world-class star to the updated Camp Nou, continues to carry on with his Club World Championship. You'd think the English Premier League La Liga and Bundesliga complained and took the tournament to court, as Infantino didn't even ask them for their opinion when creating the Club World Cup. You'd think the Footballers Association is beating the drum because of the established injuries. You'd think the players are planning to stage a strike, and even the Union of European Football Associations president, who usually tries to stay in line with Fédération Internationale de Football Association, criticized the idea of the revamped Club World Cup. There could have been many more such, you'd think. But Infantino, it seems, doesn't think about the consequences at all. I see the goal, I see no obstacles. And to hell with everything. My edge of the world, I know nothing. The head of Fédération Internationale de Football Association hasn't even found a broadcaster and sponsors for his tournament yet. But he's already changing the rules specifically for the project. The Continental Hockey League still lacks a calendar, and match scheduling is usually planned in advance to avoid inconsistencies. Infantino has come up with a new transfer window from the 1st to the 10th of June so that teams can strengthen right before the Continental Hockey League. And clubs will also be allowed to sign short-term contracts with footballers so that players can only play tournaments after leaving their clubs as free agents. In addition, as Goal writes, he has introduced new rules for the Continental Hockey League. Clubs will be required to use their strongest lineups in the tournament. If, however, the coaches resort to active rotation and fielding young players, the team will face serious sanctions. Interesting, what exactly? Will they be excluded from not particularly necessary for them tournament? Wants to make KCHM a top competition. Only instead of any quality and original solutions that would enhance the reputation of the Club World Cup, it resorts to crude methods. Who came up with the bright idea to force top players into matches out of the blue? And how can one understand who is strong and who is not? Sure, on paper it's clear that this footballer seems to be better than that one. But what's your evidence? Will they look at the prices on the transfer market or in the simulator rating? Besides, it made another brilliant update in connection with KCHM. Now, clubs are not obliged to release their players to the national teams during the tournament. Apparently, no one thought about the American teams. For example, the United States of America team will have to compete in the Confederation of North, Central American, and Caribbean Association Football Gold Cup with a weakened squad. What about KCHM? Most importantly, the money in the infant's pocket matters more than side tournaments of national teams. Carlo Ancelotti is on the verge of being fired. No, he still has a chance to get out of this mess. But they are dwindling with each match, as the Italian can't find the key to restoring the Real Madrid we are used to. Meanwhile, the Merengues management admits that the club's market operations are partly to blame for what's happening. According to Arca, the Madridistas confessed their summer squad formation efforts were insufficient, prompting the club to enter the January market. A clear sign of the boss's unease. Real Madrid hasn't made any winter purchases for 5 years. The last one was the transfer of Ranieri, who is now playing for Granada. One would think that Madrid will bring in a center back, strengthen the flanks, and also scour the market for cheap but capable fullbacks. Or they could select a player versatile enough to play center and on the defensive flanks. There's no point in strengthening the attack. Madrid has already overdone it in this regard. Of course, they will consult with Carlo from Chelsea. He still thought in the summer that the club should buy a defender, but in the end they refused him. But who knows? Will Papa Carlo work at Real during the winter break? The same Marca writes that the coach is still trusted for now. But Florentino Perez and the other club bosses are upset that the players showed no reaction to the crushing defeat in La Clasica. Perez believes that if anyone can turn the situation around, it's Ancelotti. Nevertheless, the club is already considering who could replace the Italian. Immediate options are Santiago Solari and Raul. Perez is unafraid to summon the club's legends and staff. Meanwhile, Spanish media are writing about the likely comeback of Zinedine Zidane. Zizou's appearance at the match with Milan caused a bit of a stir among the fans. Who knows? Perhaps the Frenchman's arrival is linked to a likely invitation of a specialist. If so, this will be Zizou's 4th term after entering as a player and 2 as a coach. They are not yet planning to dismiss Uncle Shama from the French national team. In the Premier League, Zidane does not plan a trip due to mediocre English. So why not pull out his home club from, well, not a swamp, but a specific kind of mire, which seems deeper than it initially appeared? Real Madrid is in crisis, it's obvious. Nothing scary, similar happens to anyone. The Royal Club has remained incredibly stable over the past 5 years. The Slivovitz should have been covered eventually. Ancelotti discussed the cause of recent losses after the Milan match, as indicated by the question and the reaction. We need to worry about our forms. The team is lacking resilience right now. We're performing poorly in defense. We lack compactness. Real should play more organized at all parts of the field. Carlo Ancelotti is evidently struggling. Real is becoming more systematic, while Slivovnich's main feature is the absence of style. There's a feeling that Carlo simply doesn't trust the updated lineup. That is, he doesn't believe the players can regulate the pace of the game themselves, and so on. The team faced these issues immediately after conductor Toni Kroos's departure, ironically. It's worth noting that in connection with this, Luka Modric has been appearing on the field very often, especially compared to last year. It seems that this is because Papa Carlo believes in him and thinks that Luka can lead the processes. Honestly, I don't really understand where the Italian has such doubts about his own team. But how else to explain what is happening? And why, for almost half the season, has he still not figured out how the attack with Mbappe and Vinicius should work? Why hasn't he settled on a scheme yet? Papa Carlo still hasn't figured out whether he wants to use aggressive pressing and how the team should start attacks. And yet, match after match, the coach just keeps repeating the same mistakes. It's strange, but Ancelotti seems to not even try to solve the problem. While not entirely the coach's fault, a significant portion of the blame lies with him. First of all, for the fact that Papa Carlo doesn't try any new tricks. Perhaps it's because the Italian has grown accustomed to many of the team's flaws, vanishing due to the player's skill. But a critical time is coming. A couple more failed matches, like the one with Milan, and Ancelotti will be fired. Real Madrid is not the kind of club that can afford to show openly reckless football so often. Manchester United is preparing to rebuild the squad under the leadership of Ralf Rangnick. How many similar updates has the Red Devils squad endured since the departure of Sir Alex? Yet in terms of squad quality, United is at best in the top 5 of the Premier League. According to authoritative journalist Florian Plettenberg, this winter United plans to sign an affordable forward and a defensive midfielder. The Red Devils are closely watching Leon Goretzka's situation, as he is dissatisfied with his playing time. Moreover, the footballer's contract expires in a year and a half, and he can be taken with a significant discount. Miu generally likes Bayern players. Bild writes that they are also trying to sign Leroy Sane. Winger can become a free agent in the summer. The extension is still far off, as the parties haven't discussed the financial issue yet. Sane is currently earning 15 million euros a year. With bonuses, his salary can go up to 20. The player additionally receives 1 million for every 6 matches. Bavaria must at least repeat and probably improve the conditions. In the APL, naturally, they are ready to pay more to Leroy, which increases the likelihood of a transfer. However, for now, the footballer's priority remains to extend his contract with Bavaria. MU definitely needs to strengthen the flanks in the attack, especially considering that in Robin Amorim's football, wingers play a nearly insignificant role. I've mentioned that they sometimes perform complex functions, like playing defensively without the ball and returning to their position when in possession. Anthony is a hard worker, but he won't deliver the needed results in attack. According to Ekrem Kanur, Amorim does not count on the Brazilian and wants to get rid of him, and instead invite Khvicha Kvaratskhelia from Napoli. Moreover, the Georgian was eager to leave in the summer, as publicly stated by his agent. Kvaradon has already shown that he is ready to adapt to different conditions. Moving from Russian Premier League to Serie A didn't confuse him. Secondly, in Conte's football, he had to move slightly more central from the wing. But Kvara, not immediately, but got used to the new role, and now only uses the new opportunities this way. A great option for Manchester United, even if they have to shell out around 100 million euros for Wenger, and also have to suffer during negotiations with De Laurentiis. I don't know about you, but personally, I admire Diego Simeone. He is a very underrated coach, but not in terms of salary, of course. He has the highest salary among all the coaches on the planet. But many people relate to Seaman as if he's more than just a physical education teacher. Ever since he parked his legendary buses, a lot has changed, except for the depth of Atletico Madrid's pocket. Their budget still leaves much to be desired. I don't understand how Semina fights for the trophy in every tournament, every season, and imposes a fight on the grands. Yes, Atletico didn't spend much this summer. Let's not deny the obvious. But the years of economy still affect the composition. Imagine, yesterday against Paris Saint-Germain, Seaman had to release a trio of center backs, Langley, Witsel, Molina, In fact, in terms of quality, even in the league, many clubs put up a stronger defense. But Atletico manages even so. With a defense made up of two non-professional position players, they stood up against Paris Saint-Germain yesterday. They first let a quick goal slip by, quickly responded, after which the Parisians completely took the ball and rolled the beloved Enrique Vatu. Matvei Safonov did not start for Paris Saint-Germain, as the French press wrote. Before the game, Enrique said he would choose the goalkeeper over a cappuccino. He settled on Denorum. Apparently, he assumed that Paris Saint-Germain would take the ball anyway. From the goalkeeper, skills of playing with hands will be prioritized over feet. That's why he trusted Donnarumma. Perhaps Safonov would have played better. Gigi conceded 2 goals yesterday. Atletico managed to secure their 3 points. In the 94th minute, Hakan Calhanoglu scored a stunning goal into the bottom corner. It appears Donnarumma could have saved it. Beautiful counterattack with an assist from Antoine Griezmann. Where can you find a review of this goal, this match, and the entire Champions League? Correct, in the description and in the pinned comment. Antoine had been failing the game until now, losing the ball every time it came to him. But then he turned on for a moment, and voila, victory in and Athletica. I note Gallagher with Boris in the center of the field. They dealt with most of Paris's attacks, skillfully passing to each other under the cover of Paris Saint-Germain players, depending on the situation. And shock content. At this moment, Paris Saint-Germain is flying past the Champions League playoffs. The team has won only 1 match in the Euro Cup against a completely disassembled Girona. And that's barely. Isn't this a disgrace? And isn't it a clear sign of problems? Yes, of course, Atletico has significantly fallen behind, but Parisians are clearly losing in big matches. The team lacks a leader, a role previously filled by Kylian Mbappe. Arsenal lost again and again minimally. The Gunners lost to Inter. I wouldn't panic on an even keel after all in the match. Igor, who was injured, missed the game against Inter Declan Rice. Arsenal still appeared superior to their rival. Great football, even with interesting adaptations of Simone Inzaghi to the opponent. Zielinski and Fratza moved to the flank from the center to help the laterals hold back Saka and Martinelli. In the end, most often it was just necessary to return the ball back to the partners, or to give not the most comfortable crosses. There were a lot of such crosses. They flew wherever they wanted, but not to Kai Havertz's head. Inter relied on their defense and occasional attacks, which proved to be the right strategy. Although the only goal was a fluke, a penalty after a handball. Just didn't get lucky. Both teams scored 3 and 1. But all this danger didn't feel at all. Arsenal just kept approaching Red Zure's gates, but they ended up only with micro moments. Another English team also lost yesterday, and Stan Villa unexpectedly failed to cope with modest Bruges. Both teams neutralized each other, which is typical in Birmingham matches. The meeting would probably have ended in a draw if it weren't for the penalty out of nowhere. Martinez played the turn, and Mings took the ball with his hand, thinking that he didn't play and needed to bring the ball into play. In the end, the Belgians got a free 11-meter out of nowhere. Just a raging beast. Last season, they forgave Gabriel from Arsenal for identical layouts. But yesterday, the referee decided to award a penalty. I understand that rules are rules, but the logic of the game is more important. That's what the referee is for, to rule on such issues. In football, the fans and a certain fairness are most important, even if it's a very vague concept. And when the referee sends off Van Persie for not hearing the whistle in a Champions League 8th final against Barcelona, it's just as absurd as yesterday's blow from the Aston Villa penalty spot. This simply should not be. This is just nonsense. What did Drugi do to get this penalty? Nothing, absolutely nothing. It seems the referees just succumbed to the pressure of the Belgian players, or he bet on the wrong team. There's complete chaos in Real Madrid. It seems like there's a smell of decay in the locker room. Marca reports that the players have no idea what the coach is doing. Why doesn't Ancelotti offer new solutions to get out of this sad situation? Why are they gradually losing faith in the coach? The coaching staff primarily attributes the results to psychology. This is, after all, a strong side of Carlo Ancelotti as a coach. He and his colleagues are dissatisfied with the team's attitude towards work. The departure of Cruz has hit the squad, and the absence of Carvajal due to injury has seriously affected the morale of the Royal Club's footballers. In the end, there was nothing left of the fighting spirit, calmness, and self-belief that had saved the Madrid team from seemingly hopeless situations so many times. According to Diario Sport and Releva, one of the main problems of the dressing room and Ancelotti personally became Kylian Mbappe. The Frenchman clearly let the coach know that he doesn't like playing as a forward, but Papa Carlo continues to put him on the edge. Thierry Henry believes that Mbappe will become better as a 9, but it takes time. I think the team is surprised by his play. The situation is complicated. Mbappe needs time to adapt, but he must learn to play as a team. He must want to show himself. For me, it's mainly about desire and discipline. Mbappe's game must improve because it simply can't get any worse. Henry noted that they don't expect Mbappe to play to the bodies like Didier Drogba, but they do expect him to dribble, and he can't even handle that. The expert stated that for now, Bellingham is trying to do Mbappe's job, including that's why Real is going through for Judd. The Englishman doesn't look like his bright version from last season. According to Releva, the leadership of Merengues blames Carlo Ancelotti and his experiments for this, due to which Judd almost every match finds himself in a new position and feels uncomfortable everywhere. The intense atmosphere was hurting Kyrial, but elevating Federico Valverde's wife. During the match with Milan, the Uruguayan's wife reacted to his substitution on X Twitter. Fede is excelling as a defensive midfielder. When the hell will they realize that he's not a winger? In the end, Carlo Ancelotti himself had to respond. The Italian said Fede's poor performance was due to back pain, forcing his removal from the field. But Nina must have been fed up with her husband after this. Why stoke the fire when the leaks are about to run away? Barcelona is knocking down one competitor after another. Yesterday, the Catalans scored 5 goals into the net of the Northern Star. They allowed 2 goals. Jules Koundé made 3 assists, double for Lewandowski, a goal plus a pass on account of Rafinha. The match could have been much tougher if they had scored a quick goal from the kickoff. But Barca was saved again by the offside trap. Barca's opponents fell into 100 offside traps in 16 matches. Some kind of fantastic indicator. Poor Pau Barca was almost sent to resuscitation yesterday. Center back got hit in the head with a teammate's boot. Blood started flowing immediately, which was scary for the guy. But he appears to be all right. He might even be ready for the Sunday match. A worthy successor to Puyol. The 17-year-old Red defender Maximovic promised before the game to show Jamal that he is better. It didn't work out. He left the field in the 70th minute without any effective actions. Why is everyone so eager to get this poor lemon? Didn't Maximovic learn from Adrian Rabiot's example at the Euro? What did Jamal say? Make your moves in silence. Only speak when it's time to say checkmate. Re-watching Barca's games is worthwhile for the many exquisite goals, thanks to LeMace and Flick's style. And on our telly where this can be done. And now we switch to the ex-club game of Hanti Flick. Bavaria defeated Benfica in a challenging match. Just 1-0, although a lot of goals were expected. Munich reminded of the team under Tuchel. The reliability at the back was more important than the aggression up front. Benfica created nothing at the gates of Manuel Neuer. Bavaria took a while to score, but they definitely earned their goal. And although Trubin was flying around the frame and did everything so that Orlov would not be outplayed, nothing worked out. The meeting took place in the silence of the stands. On the 3rd minute, the Munich fans started to feel bad. He had a heart attack. A terrible drama. Doctors tried to save him, but alas, and it's very sad that such tragedies overshadow not only our everyday life, but also football. And on this sad note, I say goodbye to you. Friends, don't forget that our channel now has its own radio show on Shanson America Radio. The link is in the description. Well, my name is Kirill Cast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house in Johanga, friends.